You're listening to the Living Beyond Broken podcast. If your life or the life of a loved one has been touched by divorce, mistreatment, addiction, or abuse, you may feel broken, even broken beyond repair. Carolyn Calton, a Christ-centered, self-worth, and relationship revitalization educator and coach, will help you find purpose as today's changemaker, chainbreaker, so you can turn stress, anxious thinking, anger, and dysfunction to hope, direction, happiness, and peace. Now, here's your host, Carolyn Calton.
Greetings. Today's topic is Codependent, the Walking Wounded, Part 1 of 3 parts. Codependence is a quality that is prevalent when a person is exposed to consistent dysfunction in relationships. It's being excessively dependent on another person in an unhealthy way for validation, approval, or identity. We are gathering in the today's changemaker, chain breaker phenomenon to break cycles of dysfunction, chaos, and unpredictability in order to heal physically, emotionally, and spiritually, so we no longer need to feel like the walking wounded who are lost in a sea of uncertainty, wandering without purpose or direction. Sometimes we realize and know that we have never been taught the principles that lead to lasting happiness. We've all have innate needs for warm, caring, loving relationships. Then how do we end up feeling like the walking wounded who have painful and sometimes tragic lives? Understanding codependence can begin to unlock some very troubling and often unanswered questions. Questions from the walking wounded include, how do we become men or women who feel out of touch with our feelings, needs, and desires? How do we become full of self-doubts? Why are some of us continually longing for something more than experiencing fear, shame, loneliness, depression, anxious thinking, or deep sadness that seem to encompass our very soul? What happened to our spontaneous sense of wonder and to our natural creativity? What happened to our happiness and why? Well, we all need security and healthy modeling of emotions. Don Bradshaw offers an explanation relating to children, but since we need healthy modeling of emotions all during our lives, I believe this information can be appreciated and related to as applying to adults at times of a departure from our true worth, as well as to children. In your mind, imagine 2 pictures of 14-year-old boys. The first picture shows a teenager whose home is full of distress, and the next teen represents a child that has a healthier home environment. The first youth is sitting on a sofa with knees bent and his feet up on the sofa. His arms are folded on his knees, and his head is hanging down, kind of resting on his arms. You can't see his eyes, but know he's really sad, discouraged, and he may have no idea what to do. The next child is smiling from ear to ear. His hands are simply folded in front of him because he's posing for a picture. The contrast between the two is striking, and the emotion of each child is evident. One is terribly sad, distraught, and discouraged, versus the other who is happy, almost joyful, and free to be who he was created to be. According to Bradshaw in his book Homecoming, he says, quote, children need security and healthy modeling of emotions in order to understand their own inner insights and signals. Let me say that again. Children need security and healthy modeling of emotions in order to understand their own inner signals. They also need help in separating their thoughts from their feelings. He points out how when the child experiences extreme distress or trauma in the family environment, the child must focus solely on the outside. Over time, he loses the ability to generate self-esteem from within. Without a healthy inner life, one is exiled to trying to find fulfillment on the outside. This is codependence. So what is codependence? Bradshaw goes on to say, quote, "To be codependent is to be out of touch with one's feelings, needs, and desires," end quote. Codependence is not the same as becoming one in purpose, like in a healthy, harmonious relationship where two people interrelate with each other without losing their sense of individual gifts, strengths, and identity, and without compromising their values. In codependent relationships, people put aside their own vital self-care and innate well-being and values to maintain a relationship with another. They often feed off the neediness of another or devote all their time and attention to them. As you're growing up, or even as an adult, when you trust and depend on someone that's in reality not dependable, you can develop codependence without even knowing it. Emotional deficits begin to exist. Painful patterns of behavior develop. Codependency can develop even if you've had a peaceful upbringing. It can begin even if you're bringing your own best efforts to a relationship and are willing to do what it takes to create harmony and fun. When things aren't going like you expected, you just recognize something's off, but may not be able to put your finger on exactly what's going wrong. Let's talk about the loss of selfhood. In a PBS special long ago, John Bradshaw used a mobile, which is kind of like a wind chime, to illustrate what happens in codependent relationships. The mobile is at rest, yet when one piece is tugged on, all the other pieces of necessity move. That's how it is in a family system. If there's someone with control issues, anger issues, or addictions, and so forth, the whole system is out of balance and strives to regain equilibrium again. Most professionals agree that codependency is about the loss of selfhood. Bradshaw also states that, quote, "codependency is a condition wherein one has no inner life. Happiness is on the outside. Good feelings and self-validation lie on the outside." Paya Melody's definition of codependency is, quote, "a state of disease whereby the authentic self is unknown or kept hidden, so that a sense of self, of mattering, of esteem, and connectedness to others is distorted, creating pain and distorted relationships," end quote. Bradshaw also says codependence is fostered in unhealthy family systems. For example, everyone in an alcoholic family becomes codependent on the alcoholic's drinking. The alcoholic father is absorbed in drinking, and the codependent mother is absorbed with the alcoholic. Because the drinking is so life-threatening to each family member, they adapt by becoming chronically alert, which is called being hypervigilant. Adaptation to stress was intended by nature to be a temporary state. It was never intended to be chronic. Over time, person living with chronic distress of alcoholic behavior loses touch with his own internal cues, his own feelings, needs, and desires. The same is true for any chronic distress, including addictions to work or activities, eating disorders, addictions to control or perfectionism, or mental or physical illness. So what's next? Watch for Codependence, The Walking Wounded, Parts 2 and 3. Do you need help knowing what to do instead of following codependent patterns? Access the Revitalize Your Inner Worth, Get Out of the Sludge online course trainings to view at your own pace at FamilyTreeQuest.com. Take a deeper dive into tips, tools, and information that can help you make sense out of life. We put generational issues and addictive or abusive family patterns and more under the microscope for clarity of understanding. And if you haven't already, please go now and join the Changemaker Chain Breaker phenomenon by joining the quest at FamilyTreeQuest.com so we can stay connected. We're waiting for you. As today's change makers in our family lines, we are here to create positive change in spite of any disruptions or destructive patterns in our families of origin, or in spite of what may be occurring in our family now. It is my firm conviction that each of us can ignite the light of extraordinary family purpose in ourselves and our families. We do it by igniting the light of our own personal power to influence others for good through making principle-centered choices in order to secure the home and stabilize society. Please check out my books, audiobooks, and courses that can help you strengthen your ability to live beyond codependence. This excerpt has been taken from the Revitalize Your Inner Worth, Get Out of the Sludge course. Break free and rise above destructive thought patterns, habit patterns, and family patterns so you can fill your highest priorities with full purpose of heart. Till next time, this is Carolyn Carlton.
Your ability to bounce back is possible, no matter your past. Carolyn will help you leave behind what's holding you back. Thanks for joining us today. Don't forget to rate, comment, and subscribe. And to be sure to check out Carolyn's Renew You classes. You can find contact information, links to her social media, and more at FamilyTreeQuest.com.